Hello, everyone. How are you? I'm Yasmine McDougall Sterea. I'm CEO and founder of Free Free. Free Free is an ecosystem of change that furthers the freedom through consciousness, creativity, and innovation. And I'm so happy to be here with Keyun and Tati. Keyun, could you introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thank you, Yasmine. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. I am Ruan. I am part of Google Cloud CISO, but I'm not representing Google today. I'm speaking for my charity, which is called Happiness Foundation. So please, the journalists here, don't quote whatever I'm saying as coming from Google. But I've been in tech for over 25 years. I started coding when I was 12 years old. So spending a lot of time pioneering different things in the intersection between technology, happiness, economics, security. Currently, I'm driving the human flourishing agenda under the AI paradigm shift, and I just got appointed to co-direct the AI and flourishing program at Harvard. So very excited about this conversation.
So I'm Tati Lindenberg. I am a senior vice president at Unilever. I've been looking after for the last 5 years a brand called Dirt is Good, which is known as Pursue in the UK, Omo in Brazil, China, Vietnam, and so many other countries. I am proudly Latina, I'm a woman, and I have a nearly 13-year-old boy, which might be referred to today in the panel, so that's me.
Well, amazing. I'm so excited to be here today. And just so I can tell you a little bit more about Free Free as well and why we're doing this panel together. We've been working for over 7 years in 4 continents. Working with the biggest companies from Google to Unilever, Harvard, Cambridge University, won awards from UN, Forbes, etc. Just because we really believe that the new economy of the world is not based on transactions anymore. It's based on transformation. And that our biggest asset is our creativity. But in order for us to access that, we need to use our higher perspective, what we call the eagle's eye, so that we can kind of go through the fog a little bit of what's the chaos that we're living right now and everything that is actually going on. And we work with companies, universities, Department of Justice, Department of Security, training, all different amazing leaders around the world, and creating impact projects that are unconventional. And I'm happy here to really bring this conversation to what is impact in the moment and how do we embed consciousness, and key institutions, and how do we make proper change beyond just speaking about change. And this is why, to start, I would love to ask Tati here to share a little bit about her work with Dirt is Good. Free Free and Dirt is Good has been partnering exactly for this reason, because of the amazing work they have been doing on how big companies can really make change in a massive level.
So a few important things. Dirt is Good obviously is a tagline, but it's also the guiding principle of the brand, and it can be counterintuitive for a laundry brand to talk about the idea of dirt being good, because usually we clean it up, so we don't want it to be good. But actually what we do is to show that dirt is not an enemy or something to be avoided, but a sign of a life in which you got stuck in and you were really into it, and as a consequence of that, we could say there is a life fully lived. And at the heart of Dirt is Good, when you think from a zeitgeist point of view, is the idea of freedom of choice. And that's why I will quote one of our recent campaigns with the Arsenal women's team, which is a campaign about period stains and how much you needed to overcome the fear of playing because of your period, and at the same time have the freedom of choice on whether you want to play with or without having a period, you want to hide it or not hide it. So that is the core of everything we do, the idea that you have the freedom of choice and to go about your life in a way that you don't have to fear anything, especially dirt.
And dirt is one of these, when we think about what's happening with technology right now and the advances of technology with AI, and we're very grateful to have Keyun here, that she will be able to really go deep in all of this. But, really going back to nature. This is what Free is really working at the moment, and how we can, as humans, as beings connected with this ecosystem that is Earth, how do we go back to where we actually we're actually from, right? We've been for so much time losing connection with everything, with each other, and we've been using social media in very damaging ways, also very positive ways. But how do we as humans, we connect with our true self in that sense, and we raise our consciousness using dirt, connecting to the ground, going outside, going back to nature, not only literally, but to our own human nature of being in a more deeply connected state, more creative state. And with advances of AI, I would love to hear you speak a little bit, Keyun, of how you see our own human flourishing, but also AI's human flourishing.
Yeah, thank you. I think coming from a security risk background, the last 3 years have been, such a big shift. I was quite worried about where AI is going, but I think since this year I'm extremely optimistic because I feel that we are opening a new era of all the possibilities that we have never imagined before, because AI can literally take away all the boring things nobody wants to do. So humanity is at this crossroad of making conscious choices for our future, and what make us come up with the right decision is really coming back to the heart. And I think consciousness and human flourishing is so much about what is beyond transactions. And like what Yasmine is saying, we're moving from a transactional system to a transformational system, because transactional system this is all about how money is made. So transactional system is about market share, is about zero sum, is about either you win or I lose, and is about getting as many users addicted to the phone as fast as possible. But I think that type of business is gonna end soon, because everybody can feel it's not feeling their heart, and especially young people and younger generation. It's like it's a slow kind of correction, but it will happen in the next 5 to 10 years. And what's coming after that is what we really want, and it's about real joy, connection, community, what I call relational well-being, and even spiritual well-being is feeling deeply connected with others, with nature, with universe, with your higher self, with this ego's eye, which is coming from the best possible place to understand your life and your connection with other people. So technology is really a neutral thing. It doesn't really have any, at the moment AI is still not yet conscious, but I think technology doesn't really decide how it will impact society. We decide how it will impact society. But I think people are not being empowered with economic choices enough as we build technology, and so far it's not being very democratic. So I think a lot of users are just passively receiving whatever is coming to their system and their phone, and they're just clicking through it. But I feel that there is gonna be a big systemic change driven by the grassroots effort, which is very much like the free movement, is how people are more empowered to make conscious choices, how they engage with technology, and how they can influence the incentive of large businesses and how they build their product systems. So some of the work I'm doing is around AI and flourishing is really about shifting incentives so that we can design algorithms and products that are maximizing for relational well-being and in the future spiritual well-being. So I think mental well-being and emotional well-being we have talked a lot about, and that definitely is the current focus. And there's a lot of products already making a lot of progress in that. But relational well-being is about not chatting to the AI for 10 hours a day, like everybody's doing that now, But how about the AI tell you to connect with someone else, like your friend or family, and how to kind of nourish human-to-human connections. And spiritual well-being is meaning and purpose. I think when people are having much more free time, they will all want to feel they're connected with something bigger. And what is that? What is the value that we are all creating beyond economics we know today? So it's and then kind of coming up with those dimensions like relational and spiritual well-being, and how to measure them at scale, and how we can build businesses and investment strategy to measure the return on investment against those dimensions, beyond profit. And obviously, they have to be measured in dollar in the future, that we are realigning value with money. I think one of the biggest problems we have today, in midst of multiple collapses around the world, we are seeing systemic collapse, and which is a great thing. It's like a detox process, and something new is going to emerge. And I think a key theme here is maybe since the 70s, when we detached the gold standard, we have this detachment from money, the detachment between money and value. So we are making lots of money, but they are not really creating societal value. And I think now we have the opportunity to realign the two, and with AI, it's going to be a fascinating future if we do it properly.
Well, I'm very excited with everything that's going on, to be honest. Even though we see all this chaos, there is so much possibility when we see things changing. One of the things that, as you were speaking, reminded me, recently I was invited to join a conference at Cambridge University, and it was hosted by the Judge School, which is the business school at Cambridge. And Free is collaborating with them in a project for teenagers, where we will teach them critical thinking, which is basically how do we bring teenagers and youth in general that would develop critical thinking at university level, but they need to do it a bit earlier because they have so much access to the internet right now, social media, AI, etc. And they're just seeing all this information, just seeing is a truth. And what is truth is how we need to help everyone else, and this is where the consciousness aspect really helps us to have that eagle's eye when we're seeing new things coming and developing, and how not only for us adults, because of course this is for us as well, but how do we bring this for younger people that don't have developed their critical thinking yet. And it all starts with confidence, right? Confidence being, I trust myself to understand this piece of news or information that is being given to us. And I think most of us have seen Adolescence, which was, a big show right now that, discusses how people are very influenced. And it all goes back to confidence, which all goes back to our ability to trust our higher selves, this eagle's eyes perspective that is above the noise and the cloud, and going back to nature. And then I'm going to throw this to Tati so that you can share a little bit about what you think and how we can, as a society, help our youth to develop all these critical thinking, but then our parents, how do parents relate to this? How do leaders?
Yeah, of course. I think that it's a super exciting topic in a way, scary but exciting. There are multiple ways I believe that we can go about it. One is obviously digital literacy at schools. So again, I was mentioning at the beginning that I would probably refer to my son, and sometimes when I look at what he's learning, I ask myself, how much is he learning about prompting AI? How much is he learning about even understanding the potential manipulation that he can see online? So the first thing I would have to say is, as a society, if you want to drive systemic change, we need to start at schools, and all different schools everywhere. We needed to teach kids digital literacy. They have to truly understand what is going on in the world and how they handle digital. So that would be the first point. There is an important thing as a parent, which is really about the role models that we have. So how many of you, for instance, the last thing that you touch or you see before going to sleep is your phone? I think I'm not going to ask you guys to raise hands because I don't want to embarrass anyone, but it is true that all of us, one of the last things, if not all, most of us, one of the last things we do is we check our phones. And the first thing when we wake up, under the disguise of it's my alarm clock, yes, you like turn it off, but then immediately you open a social media. Any of them could be a social media, could be even in some cases I'm checking the news, but the first thing before giving a hug to your partner in case you have one, or cuddling your pet, or waking up and just feeling fresh, what do? We check our phones. So we also are not, we have to question ourselves, if you think about consciousness, how much are we setting the right models to the new generation? And I do that all the time. I keep thinking, like, if I bring my phone to the table over dinner, how can I expect my son not to do the same? And sometimes even in meetings, if I bring my phone, if I am in a meeting room and I put my phone on the table, that is an indication that potentially what is in my phone is more important than anything else around. So first thing, digital literacy at schools. The second one is really about the role model that we give to people. And the third one I would have to say is how can we also encourage spaces that I call free of technology. So I know that there are many cafes nowadays, for instance, that you have to enter and leave your phone. It's quite scary. I have to say, for instance, even the idea, I always look at planes as, okay, I will be phone free, nobody can reach me. Not anymore, because you have Wi-Fi as well now on airplanes. So how much can we as well encourage spaces? And if not a cafe, even at home, how can you encourage, for instance, all the bedrooms are phone free, digital free, as an example. Not the living room, but maybe the bedrooms. And this last one, which is obviously related to now me speaking as Unilever, is how can we design for depth and not dopamine? So how can I make sure that when I am creating a campaign or when I am using social or digital to ensure that I can communicate new products, etc., how can I ensure that I'm not just pushing and inspiring people to be stuck in even more and more, again, depth and dopamine. So these are, from my point of view, the different angles and the different ways that we can go about ensuring that the world, at least from an AI, digital, social, however we want to name it, is a little bit more conscious than today.
Yeah, it's been a journey because the internet, since we started having internet and social media, we have been, all the systems, everything have been created in a way that you want to continue clicking, right? And then you want to do more and more and more of all of that. And we have seen how this affects mental health, relationships in general, how people consume. I mean, it really changed our behavior generally speaking. As a leader, I've seen big changes, of course, since the pandemic. We started Free just a year before the pandemic, and we were doing everything offline. With the pandemic, we had to go through the whole transition of online. Team, going outside. My whole team was working in our office. Then everyone is still home office around the world. It was actually a great way for us to expand. That's how we were able to be, in 4 different continents at the same time, without having all the costs of offices. And then you see a lot of development in all of this. But I also see this very complex sense of fear that is embedded through, the media in general, the entertainment business, and everything else. When we take a step back, and as parents, I also have a girl. She's 9 years old. And she is what I call a free girl. She loves running around and really climbing trees and just singing and dancing. Yesterday I caught her in the shower really singing, very excited, and it's just I'm just seeing her and just reflecting how we stop doing all these things that make us feel joy, right? Because we're constantly clicking and clicking and clicking, and we're losing the depth. And I think the key thing that you were saying is this depth of relationships with each other, conversations that really matter, because people are really feeling lonely at the moment, right? And people are really feeling scared with all the changes that are happening. People are getting scared of being laid off. They're scared of what's going to be happening with me, with all the, everything that's happening with AI at the moment. But the key thing is, and what I'm really, really excited about, is that for the first time, I'm seeing people awakening this connection with their heart for a reason. They're feeling the need to go deeper in themselves, because it's almost like you can't hide anymore. Because if you keep hiding, you will just lose connection, you will lose touch with your, deeper connections. And people are also looking for true friends again, and it's a very interesting thing that I think for some reason, the advances of technology and how the economy is behaving with people are consuming in a different way. We're looking for depth, because this is what nourishes us. And we're seeing as well a lot of people looking for more purposeful life, in the sense of like, what does my life make a difference beyond my bank account, beyond my, how many people follow me on social media? How do I make a difference? How do I serve? And I think this goes really along with true service, really caring about something, whatever that means to you. And I think this really aligns with what you're researching at Harvard right now, and what you're going to start researching at Harvard with AI flourishing, and with your foundation, Happiness Foundation. So can you just bring a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. I mean, I think we're at the beginning of this whole vision of AI and flourishing. I think Trump, even despite everything that he has done, he also mentioned human flourishing in his AI strategy when he took office in January. So it's important for the world to reimagine to imagine what that means, because I think flourishing is still relatively a new trendy word. And I think economics and society, we have been driven by survival, and survival is very much about fear. So I think a lot of things we do, everything we do is either driven by fear or love. And the opportunity we have now, being liberated by technology, is that we can try to do more things from love and not from fear. And I think that's the difference between a economic system that is driven by flourishing objectives versus a transactional economics, making sure everybody's getting paid and they have food and all of that. So it's really a completely new space, and we can do a lot of things with it. But in terms of coming up with something that can be adopted globally by businesses, by investment firms, it's going to be complex research. But I think at the same time it's very simple, because it will be something coming from the heart. When we look at consciousness and how we can really have this global movement to make that shift together, is everybody come back to their agency, to have the agency to understand what does it mean to be happy and to flourish, and to reconnect with their heart, their purpose, and their meaning. Because every day, I think not everybody asks these questions to themselves now, and very often technology is a distraction, and society and our life and our time is filled with distractions. Even when people are experiencing painful layoffs, and we have this upcoming phase of huge disruption in the global jobs market, there will be a lot of pain, there will be a lot of loss, but at the same time, it's a process of freeing ourselves from an old way of living. And I think ultimately, over time, many people will rediscover, truth from asking what actually makes them happy and flourish and feel connected, with the people around them, and also with nature, with the universe, with their higher purpose. So this is like a big reckoning phase for the whole world, and I think that's where my optimism comes from, because society recorrects itself. It might not be individual, not at the individual, kind of day-to-day level, and we are experiencing a lot of trauma, a lot of bad news. But at scale, if you look at decades of transformational change, we have always come out of, we have always gone better. So I think that is the longer term thing that I'm seeing. But AI is going to be the best tool if we can fix incentives. And it's difficult to shift big vehicles like large companies because they have been doing things as they have been doing for decades. But at the same time, it's not that difficult. So if you look at GDP, it's less than 100 years old, right? Like before that, we had different matrices, and we can have new matrices, and we have always adopted change if we do this together. So it's, I think ultimately it's not like a research project, because research is limited by, what 10 people think about the world and, publications and stuff. When it comes to human flourishing, it is a democratic, public engagement thing, and it comes from how people rediscover their agency in the world of AI and connecting with their heart and their purpose.
I'm very excited with this new moment, to be honest. And I'm going to ask Tati very soon something, but just to comment on what you just said, is that what I do a lot with AI is, I meditate a lot. That's what I do. And we teach meditation. We do like every week. We have what we call the Free World Club, which people can join and become members. We started that part of Free last year. And every Monday we do a meditation session. And the ideas that I come, and I really, just comes through me, because we're all connected to a field, right? We're not just, everyone has their different opinion. I'm going to share mine, so bear with me. We're not just our bodies, right? We are definitely much more than our bodies. And of course, we feel energy around us. We feel vibrations. We're not just here. There's more stuff. We feel, we get into a room and there's something there. And it's funny because I have these very interesting conversations with AI, very deep conversations after my meditations about I just, figured this out. And what I love this is that we're expanding our potential of what we, for a long time, we're so worried about what's happening to my body or how will I pay my bill. And then when you start going okay, how do I push this further? And this all happened because when I started Free, I started Free after my mother passed away. She took her own life, and it was very, an intense thing. And I had to deal with all that trauma. And what I'm saying today, which is very interesting, is that you go beyond your trauma, you heal yourself, and you access this creativity that helps us feeling the joy. And then I'm just going to throw this to Tati so that we can wrap up, is how can we do this in a bigger corporate, how are you guys doing this?
So very briefly, one key thing I've been driving is this idea of everybody speaks nowadays when it comes to marketing or branding about storytelling, and it's obviously at the core of what we do at Unilever, and Dirt is Good. But what I think it's really important is, I say, when we move from storytelling to story living, which is when actually the people working with me, or even the audiences that I reach, we started being part of a much deeper ecosystem. So I love seeing, for instance, when people who are working with me, my team, they actually live Dirt is Good. And by no means I'm saying that they have to arrive at the office dirty or anything, but they live the mission of the brand. They believe in that.
Yeah.
And when they believe in it, the work in general becomes easier for everyone, because it moves from being a burden or a place of fear to being a place of joy. So this idea that you truly believe in what you are doing, whatever you are doing. In this case, of course, I try to make sure that the guiding principle of the brand is also the guiding principle of the team in terms of freedom of choice as well. That's what I believe can really change the way that teams and big corporations can act. It's when you move from what I'm doing and you have the conscious of this is the brand I'm working for, this is the brand in my case that I have the pleasure of looking after for 5 years, the honor of doing it, but I have to do it very consciously with a lot of intention, and knowing that this will infuse and be embedded across my entire team. So I hope it helps. Story living, that's how I call it.
That's amazing. I love story living. I think we should all be living a bit more of our own missions. Free also has, we're all in a mission here, and I'm happy to say that, Keyun is part of our board, Tati is part of our leadership committee. And just to wrap up, because our time is over, what is freedom for you?
Freedom is love, yeah. Love everything we do.
Oh, that's tough. No, I would just say that I think I would agree that freedom is love, but is also respect. I think that's really important. We sometimes confuse the idea of freedom as if I'm going to be free to do whatever I want, but with freedom comes responsibility. So
100%.
that is how I would go.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you.